Hey babes, my name is Nadia Sayre, and today we are reading chapter 14 of The Rebels. I am 99% certain there are no trigger warnings here, but here we go. The older woman, the spokeswoman, had an elegance about her. It was in the way she moved, the way she held herself. The younger women gravitated to her like moths to a flame, or like frightened children to their mother. I felt like a filthy vagabond next to her. Then I remembered that I was a filthy vagabond. Still. "What's next?" the woman asked. I was about to hem and haw when I remembered Mary's advice. Always sound confident. Fake it till you make it. Unwillingly, my shoulders scrunched closer to my ears. "Next, get everyone together. We're heading downstairs. Hopefully our ride will be here soon." The woman stared at me thinking before nodding to herself as if she'd come to a decision. She turned to chivvy the girls along, speaking gently but firmly. The dazed looks slowly cleared and the girls disappeared into various rooms. Alex grinned triumphantly at me, nodding and inviting me to take part in the win. "You," I growled around the sudden flash of rage, "can get your ass downstairs and make sure Leo and the kids got here okay. Then you can keep watch. Pray you see a bus before you see soldiers." She began. "Shut up," I snarled. "I don't have time for excuses courtesy of you. You had something like this in your head ever since you heard about the fucking brothels, didn't you?" Alex nodded, but wisely didn't try to say anything. I think I might have decked her if she tried again. "Because of you, I had to send Sonya out alone to find us transport out of here. You better hope she's fucking good, or else you've just handed all of us to the North Koreans on a damn platter," I hissed, not 2 inches from her face. Alex paled, leaning back and licking her lips. It took her 3 tries before she managed to croak out a weak, "You keep not helping people. We could have insisted that guy leave with us. And my aunt, and cousin, the kid, that couple. I thought you'd see another reason not to help. You don't want to take any chances," she finished sullenly. "I could answer that. Again," I whispered. "But I could swear you were there, that you saw their situations. Now go watch the fucking road." After the women headed downstairs, I took a quick trip around just to make sure there weren't any living bodies and to pick up any weapons I could find. Downstairs, I saw the soldier I'd first encountered had his throat slit. By the blood, it looked like the tough chick had finished him. I was marginally gratified to see Alex actually keeping watch. The oldest woman had the others, including Leo and her girls, gathered in one corner near the lower hallway. They wore a mixture of lingerie and uniforms, anything to cover up. I did a quick head count. 15 of us, far more than I'd expected. I sincerely hoped Sonya got here soon. "Yo!" Alex called. My hopes rose. "We got company! Soldiers headed this way!" My hopes plummeted. Fuck. "Anybody here have shooting experience?" I asked the room at large. At this point, I'll even take video game experience. Only one person stepped forward, the tough one. "I'm ex-army," she said, straightening her shoulders. "Cool." I spread out the weapons I'd brought down with me. "Take your pick. Take a couple." Ex-army took 2 handguns and a knife. I took an extra gun, making my working total up to 2. Yeah, maybe I needed another one. Moving over to Alex at the window to the right of the door, I checked where she pointed and cursed under my breath. We were heard, all right. 2 patrols of 6 men each were heading our way from the south. "We'll have to wait until they get into range, damn it. Assholes got rifles," I ground out. I looked to the north, where Son had gone. "Come on," I muttered. The soldiers kept to the edges of the street, 6 to a side. There was caution, sure, but a lot of arrogance, too. They just looked Like the popular kid at high school. The one who rocked up fashionably late to everything, who had perfect hair and wardrobe. They knew they were the top dog and they walked like it. I always had the urge to mess with their hair. It annoyed them so much. "I can hit them," Alex whispered. "I know it." I waited, calculating the distance. "All right. Mess up Steve's hair," I finally said. She sighted down the barrel, choosing her target, waiting. I cracked the door open while the soldier sat up in the northern window. I was sweating, my base layer growing clammy as I waited for Alex to start shit. I waved for the woman to get all the others down and spared a moment to feel grateful for the building. A solid structure, it had an added benefit. After they'd built the walls and run the cables, concrete was poured between, sealing everything. My brother Sean worked for a construction company, and he told me about it, walked me through a job site. Said there was no artistry to it, though. I rapped on the wall, just to reassure myself we wouldn't die in the next 5 seconds. "Gotcha," Alex murmured, exhaling as she fired. Once she opened up, ex-Army and I joined in, picking at the edges and keeping them bunched up for Alex. I pulled the door closed and jumped back from it, away from a spray of splinters. "So, yeah, that thing wasn't bulletproof." "I can't see the other team," Alex cried, frustrated. 2 Steves were down, not moving, and the 4 we could see were hiding as best they could. She'd picked a moment when they were walking past a glass-fronted building, minimizing the amount of cover they could find. I enjoyed watching them squirm and try to squeeze behind bits of furniture and walls. "I might get a view of the other team from upstairs," the soldier called. She detoured past the remaining weapons, grabbing another gun on the way, and leaving one more. The older woman took that last and positioned herself in front of the girls. "Is there a back door?" I asked the air. We didn't have to worry about windows. Everything on the ground floor had bars, which 20 minutes ago was a bad thing, but now I was eternally grateful for. "There is," the woman replied, "and it only opens from the inside." The soldiers upstairs began firing, and judging by the spacing, she picked her shots carefully. "I can see flashes of the other team," Alex said fretfully, "but not enough for a good shot. You want to give them something extra to aim for?" she asked me hopefully. "I hate you," I informed her as I moved to the door. 2 quick breaths and I stepped outside, firing wildly. I fell backwards into the room, tucking into a roll as bullets peppered the space I'd just occupied, and I heard a whoop from upstairs while Alex punched the air. "Got some?" I inquired. "Do it again," she commanded. "There's someone who made it into the building directly across the street. I want a shot at them." I flung the door back, stuck my head out, then shrieked with joy as I ducked back in. "Our ride's here!" Screeching around the corner from the north came a short, bright yellow bus, my cousin's stocky frame visible through the window. The soldier saw her, too. Shit. "Here goes nothing!" I fished one of my grenades out, pulled the pin, and hurled it at the window across the street I'd climbed through a short while ago. By some miracle, I actually made the throw just as the bus screeched to a halt in front of the door. It was impressive, seeing the bus open its doors against a backdrop of smoke, flying bits of building and the occasional plop of organic matter. Too bad we were too busy to appreciate it. Son leaned over. "Get in!" she bellowed. "Move!" I bawled, taking up a covering position with Alex between the bus and the building. The smoke and dust from the grenade combined with the coming dusk created a murky half-light that was difficult to see in. It's a good thing we were leaving now. Maybe we could use the dark to lose them. Someone tapped my shoulder. "Time to go!" the soldier cried. As soon as I got a good hold and a foot in the bus, Sonya gunned it and we shot off, taking the first right, then right again, so we were heading back north. "What took you so long?" I asked Son, panting. She grinned and pointed to something lying on the floor next to her. "There might have been some folks who objected to my liberation of a bus." I laughed when I saw 2 rifles, the same kind Steve carried. I caught a glimpse of a street sign as it whizzed past. "We're on 25th Street, I said, hanging onto a seat for dear life. I scrunched up my nose, thinking, didn't 25th connect with... "Down!" screamed Alex. I hit the floor with everybody else and heard glass shattering interspersed with women screaming. "Where are they?" I gasped. "They came out of a side street just ahead of us." Alex was pale, blood running from a shallow cut made by the flying glass. "I think it's that other team." "Here." One of the younger women wriggled up next to Alex with some torn cloth formed into a pad. I recognized her as the bruised woman from downstairs, the Latina. With quick, efficient movements interrupted by the jarring of the bus, she pressed the pad to Alex's head and wrapped a strip of cloth around it, tying it roughly. "Catch!" Sonya yelled, sliding one of the rifles back to me. The rifle thunked into my leg and I grabbed it, giggling madly, and slid down the aisle to the back door. I took a moment to familiarize myself with the rifle, mostly making sure it was on something other than safety, and popped up, squeezing off short bursts at the soldiers through the broken back window. Just enough to keep them occupied while we put them in our rear view. The bus braked suddenly and I flew backwards, sliding a few feet. The training kicked in enough that I managed to not bite my tongue in half or slam my head onto the floor. I twisted onto my belly and scrambled the rest of the way to the front, still clutching the rifle. "What the fuck is happening?" I screamed. "Why are we stopping?" Sonya pointed silently in front of us. A roadblock hunched across the 2-lane road 50 feet away. The bulk of it had been hidden by the buildings, which is why we'd made it so close before Son noticed it. The block part was nothing more than sawhorses with a wooden pole across the single lane. It was the sandbagged machine gun nest on the left and the soldiers with rifles behind a barricade on the right that freaked me out. The curly barbed wire topping it all was really just overkill. A quick glance showed we'd passed the last intersection and the enemy team behind us had managed to find a truck. "Fuck it!" I snarled. No sooner had the words left my mouth than Son stomped the gas and we lurched forward. Cue shrieking, though it sounded more angry and shocked than afraid to me. "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Estás loca!" I think we surprised everybody, because it took Steve long, precious seconds to comprehend what was happening. Long enough for Alex to lob a grenade with a classic sidearm dodgeball throw through the window into the machine gun nest. I fired out the door at the soldiers on the right, while Sonya made herself as small as possible, screeching at everyone else to hit the floor. The remaining glass on the left side of the bus blew inwards at the grenade concussion. A line of fire high on my right arm and the whap of a bullet's passing told me Steve had finally pulled their collective thumbs out of their asses, just in time to watch us barrel through the flimsy barricade. "Shit! I've been shot!" I couldn't believe how much it burned. "Those assholes put a hole in my jacket!" Alex and the Latina arrived next to me at the same time. "It's not too malo." The Latina had more bandages in her hand. "Bed sheets?" I looked farther back and saw 3 rescuees frantically tearing a sheet into strips. And there were blankets everywhere. When did blankets happen? Reading my expression, the young woman jerked her head, indicating the spokeswoman. "Mi madre. Her. She took blankets from el armario. Comprendes?" Maybe? Your mom grabbed blankets and stuff from armario. Wardrobe? Closet? Utilizing my distraction, the younger woman wrapped the strips snugly around my arm, ignoring my sharply indrawn breath. "See?" the woman replied, tightening the knot as we screeched around a corner. "Ow!" I snapped. "Suck it up," Alex said carelessly from where she watched our rear. "Oh, do you need me to pull over so we can take care of your owie?" Son called, never taking her eyes from the road. She took a left, then a sharp right a few minutes later. You can both jump off a friggin' cliff, I informed them primly. If you can't find one, I would be happy to give you directions. Those assholes just laughed, a little hysterically, reassured that I wouldn't die. I wouldn't die from the graze. Our ex-soldier had a tiny grin on her face as she listened to us. She also kept her eyes on the sides, joining everybody else in watching Steve running to catch us. The others looked frightened, though here and there little glimmers of excitement showed. Head for 99E, I called to Sonya. We gotta pick up the kids. Can I have the other rifle? Alex shouted from the back. Steve's gaining on us. Pass her the rifle, Sonya announced to anyone who was close. Then louder, for Alex. I want that back. I worked hard to get it. Won't it be safer for the kids if the kids stay hidden? Dunno how these dudes roll. I nodded my thanks to the young woman for bandaging me. Personally, after watching us bust out of this place, I'd be all over the countryside, making sure there weren't more little shits like us floating around. Besides, we need the gun. Oh, you don't like to make things easy, do you? She asked sarcastically as Alex began taking shots at the truck still pursuing us. Just, drive across the entire damn city while being chased and shot at and make it out the other side in one piece. No problem. I patted her shoulder with my left hand. I knew you'd see it my way. Bitch! Sonya's voice was high-pitched as we approached another roadblock, this time from the rear. The women all hit the floor again, two of them helping Leo with her girls, curling around them. Brat. I readied the rifle, wrapping the strap around my arm to make sure I didn't lose it, and leaning over the barrier and out the door. Waiting. There were no buildings to hide this roadblock, and immediately on the other side of it was a T-junction. We needed to go right. If we missed this, we were fucked. Steve held their fire, waiting for us to get close enough for them to be sure of a hit. Thing is, Murphy's Law. If you're close enough to shoot me, you're also close enough for me to shoot you. Our windshield became more whole than glass, cracks spiderwebbing over the rest of it, while Sonya drove with barely more than her forehead showing over the dashboard. The manufacturer's boasts held true. The windshield cracked, but it didn't shatter. It should also be mentioned that not all of those holes were caused by incoming bullets. Some of them may have been mine, exiting. We roared through their little roadblock, sending sawhorses and men flying. I braced myself as we screeched around the corner onto Center Street, the bus barely righting itself. I chanced a quick glance back. The girls were mostly all right, just shaken and scared, though the redhead had one hand pressed to her head, the other hand tightly gripping the seat in front of her. Sloppy, I muttered, shaking my head and watching Steve scurrying around like ants whose nest had been kicked. What? A blonde girl, I think she was one of the two girls with the spokeswoman earlier, asked me, puzzled. I shook my head. They're fucking sloppy. Look at 'em. I pointed behind us. No coordination. They're totally surprised. Like, sure, they've got roadblocks, but they weren't expecting to have to use 'em. Hawthorne! The soldier shouted. Left on Hawthorne if you want the 99. Son took the corner so sharply I found myself with my cheek plastered to a window. It did give me a great view of the Hummer that just turned onto Center from Lancaster. Fuck. We have another stalker! I bellowed. I see it! Alex shouted back. A little help here! No good, Sonya called. I got one coming up on the right. I peeled my cheek off the glass and awkwardly stepped into the bus's stairwell, bracing my back and knees against anything that would hold. I raised the rifle, grimacing as the motion pulled the damaged muscles, and fired at the windows. I scowled when the bullets didn't even ding the glass. Fucking bulletproof glass, I muttered. Stupid bastards can't even take a little. I aimed low this time, hoping to get a tire. I missed the one I aimed at, but I got lucky and hit the other side. I giggled as the Humvee listed, and I riddled the front grill with bullets. I whooped when steam gushed from under the hood. Didn't bulletproof your engine block, did you? I crowed. Who's the idiot now, Steve? Some of the girls gave a ragged cheer as that truck had to break off, and we watched the soldiers pouring out of it. One of them popped up into My eyes widened. Gun! I roared. Everybody down! That soldier manned a machine gun from a small turret in the middle of the Hummer and peppered our beleaguered little bus. I heard a short cry about halfway down the aisle. I turned to see a girl slump into the aisle, blood pouring from a gaping hole in her chest. The oldest woman flung herself down by the girl, stuffing a wad of sheets against the girl's chest, trying to stem the flood. She whispered softly to the young woman, stroking her hair tenderly. Leo, closest to the two of them, scooted over and helped raise the girl up, and between the two women, they cradled the dying girl. I heard Leo crooning a lullaby, and quickly, so quickly I almost missed it, the young woman was gone. Around us, the bus's engine still strained, roaring away. Glass fell tinkling to the floor. Metal shrieked as it was rent by bullets. And over all this, the harsh, staccato report of gunfire marked the passing of a girl who'd been thrown into the fire by an uncaring army. Gasps and cries sounded from the others who'd shared this poor girl's captivity. I watched, frozen. It wasn't until our soldier hushed them and reminded them that this time was for helping the living, that we would mourn her later, that I snapped out of my daze. Looking up to check our progress, I saw Son repeatedly twisting, trying to look over her shoulder at us and watch the road at the same time. How is she? She's gone, I said, throat tight. Sonya's shoulders slumped, but her foot stayed glued to the pedal, maintaining a fine line between maximum speed and wasted gas. God only knew when we'd see a gas station and have time to fiddle with refilling. Damn automation made it tricky. In this one instance, I had to be content that Oregon is a poor state. We couldn't afford the fancy new gimmicks that richer states could, even on our few remaining gas pumps. That Hummer, whose radiator I'd ruined, decided to stay in the chase. I laughed, but there was no humor to it. They'd thrashed their engine, melting all the little bits of it, driving it like that. Good. So a truck and 2 Hummers. We'd had better days. I made my way to the back to help Alex deal with our pursuit while the soldier watched the front with Sonya. How are you doing for ammo? I asked Alex when I reached her. Hell if I know. So while I watched, she checked her magazine and found it only a quarter full, maybe 10 rounds left. Then I checked mine and found it maybe 2/3 full. Got any spare mags? Alex shouted at Son. Without looking around, my cousin reached into her jacket and fished a couple spare mags out and sent them back to us. I love her, Alex breathed, scooping them up when they reached us. She really thinks of everything. Got any more grenades? I asked. I wiped my face against my shoulder, wiping away tears. When had I started crying? I've only got one. We still had the gates at the 99 to get through, and I preferred fast and dirty to slow and caught. That gate had been blatantly designed to keep people in, prisoners. Alex silently unzipped her jacket and pulled it open, displaying the lining. I pursed my lips in a silent whistle, eyes wide. She'd sewn pockets in there, and she was carrying 6 grenades, all right next to her. It was a miracle she hadn't spontaneously combusted just breathing. I jumped in shock, propping my butt on the back of a seat, staring. How are we not dead yet when you've got all that? She shrugged. That lunatic just shrugged. I decided I'd kill her later, provided we survived this. You know what? I asked. Why don't you take your arsenal up front? That gate should be coming up soon. We swayed as the bus took another corner too fast. Real soon. Have fun. As she stepped carefully to the front, I fired a few rounds behind us, just to let Steve know we hadn't forgotten them. As I pondered our suicidal friend. With a shiver, it occurred to me that we'd been closer to dying than I'd even dreamed of over the last few days. I paused with my cheek resting against the barrel of the rifle. How did she manage to sleep on all that? And another thought. I'd slept next to her. Chalk it down to one more thing to not think about. I looked through the window again and found the truck weaving across the road, making it harder to hit. Smart. Dumb, because it took them so long to do it, though. The injured Hummer had dropped back significantly, blocking the last Hummer and slowing that one down. Good. A soldier stood up in the truck behind us, hefting a large caliber rifle. "Evasive action!" I yelled. "Aye, aye, Captain!" Sonya shouted back, and I flopped to the floor, that being the quickest way to get out of the line of fire. "Fuck you!" I screamed at her. A bullet tore through the door, a massive hole appearing where my chest had just been. I giggled madly, sliding side to side in the aisle as Son swerved to try to make a fucking bus a more difficult target. As the bus swayed clumsily, I wished we had Acelia. Her skills, or recklessness, would come in pretty handy about now. So would the mounted machine gun on the GMC, come to think of it. A bullet pinged through the door, destroying the latch and making the rear door swing wildly, loudly banging each time it shut. Everybody was screaming, including me, as I wriggled around to sit with my feet braced on either side of the door, firing short bursts in those moments when the door swung open. "You need help!" Alex yelled, preparing to come to the back. "Stay put!" I shouted back. "We'll need you there!" A bullet plowed through the top hinge, making the door hang awkwardly as it flopped on its remaining support. It gave me a longer window to shoot through, but now Steve could see me, too. I was doing okay, with my feet still braced, when a sudden turn had me crashing sideways into my right arm. I shrieked, hands spasming, and lost my grip on the rifle. It slid under a seat, out towards the back. It bounced partway over my leg, and I lunged for it, swearing. I missed, and I knew with every fiber of my being that it was gone. A hand shot out from the last seat on the bus and snagged the strap just before the rifle slid out the door. A young, they were all young, frightened, we were all frightened, face peered at me, and the blonde girl passed the rifle to me, giving me a small smile. I grimaced back, and should have kept that to myself, as she just gave me a strange look and pulled away, pressing herself into as small a bundle as she could manage again. I re-looped the strap around my arm and aimed for the grill as the truck rounded the corner after us. The harsh sound of large caliber bullets tearing through the side of the bus got my attention next, and I struggled to see out the side window. The bastards behind us took advantage of my distraction, obliging me to flop onto the floor, sucking in my stomach, thinking flat, and hoping to avoid getting shot. Well, until a shrieked, "Mommy!" filled the bus. "No!" I howled, sitting back up, firing wildly out the door, forcing Steve to slow slightly. All the wild gyrations became too much for the beleaguered door, and it gave way, bouncing merrily down the road. The truck had to swerve abruptly to avoid it, and for a split second I had the chance to shoot without fear of being hit. I put 4 bullets directly into their grill. Within seconds, the truck slewed to the side, nearly throwing the gunman on the back from his perch as the engine, already under extreme pressure and heat, gave up, all the little moving bits fusing together. Now that my immediate problems were solved, I had the attention to notice the shots being fired at the front of the bus and to realize I still heard children sobbing. I chanced a quick look over my shoulder and saw Alex and our soldier at either side of the front, firing steadily. Alex passed over a grenade and fished out another for herself. It finally dawned on me that the last turn we'd taken had brought us onto the 99. Between us, I saw a cluster of people, and from the center of that, 2 little girls crying. 2 booms, the concussive forces rocking the bus let me know the women had thrown. I just hoped they'd been accurate. I peered out the back door, but the only vehicle currently on our tail was far enough back that I could take a minute. I twisted around and began a slow crawl back up the aisle to check on Leo. My right arm didn't want to support my weight, and I limped heavily, my knees taking a bruising as we bounced over the road. The spokeswoman was in the center of the small cluster, and when she saw me, she shook her head silently. Leo was gone. I slumped back, closing my eyes, and slammed my left hand onto the floor, trying to pound out my guilt and rage, trying not to scream. 2 dead already. Someone shifted in the seat I leaned against, bringing me back to my senses. Breathe. Just breathe. After a few moments, I opened my eyes. A quick swipe of my sleeve over my face, and I was ready to pretend again. We didn't have time for anyone to fall apart now. As I looked up, I made eye contact with the spokeswoman, the woman who obviously acted as a mother to all the girls under her care. She cradled Moana, and another girl, the Latina, had Cub. Those 2 were right in the middle of everything. The spokeswoman nodded firmly, never breaking eye contact, giving me silent encouragement. I'd known her less than an hour, and I already knew, to my bones, that she's a rock to everyone around her. A calm, quiet, utter badass. Screaming from the front got me moving, and everything was soon drowned out by a crash and screeching metal as we barreled through the gate and tore it from its hinges. Seconds. If we'd evaded them for a few more seconds, Leo would still be alive. We shot down the road, leaving the gates as nothing more than wreckage in our wake. I hoped it took Steve time to replace them, and that people heard about the broken gates in the city. A breath of hope, of freedom, wafting through the fetid air. Yeah, that didn't last long. "Behind us!" a girl cried in the back. I turned towards the door and saw the blonde chick who'd caught the rifle before I lost it. She pointed frantically toward the city, rapidly falling away behind us. What wasn't falling away were 3 Hummers and 2 of those massive road tanks. Not only were they not receding, they were gaining. My heart sank back into my boots. "We got company!" I bellowed. "Fuck, fuck, 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 fuck." Alex turned the air blue with one simple word. The soldier paled, but grit her teeth and ejected the magazine to check how many shots she had left. Not enough, naturally. "Got it out of your system?" I asked Alex cheerfully. "Take this." I shoved my rifle at her. "Get back there and slow them down. Maybe use a grenade, too, if you think. You've got the last of them." "Not quite." Son, who'd been eavesdropping, interjected. "Here." She passed me a handgun, a spare magazine for the handgun, then, like a magician, she withdrew a landmine from under her shirt with a little flourish. "How the hell did we not explode?" I asked the air as I took the landmine from her gingerly and passed it to Alex. Alex grinned, the light of a pyromaniac shining in her eyes as she carefully scooched to the back of the bus on her ass and took up a position with a foot on either side of the open door, like I'd done. "Aim for the grill!" I shouted at her. Without bothering to reply, she began carefully picking her shots, aiming low down at the tires and engine. I turned back to find the soldier watching me attentively. "Orders, sir?" "I ain't Army, you know. Keep an eye on the front, make sure Steve isn't surrounding us. I just gotta borrow this." I held up the handgun for a sec. "Then you can have it. Need to call the kids." "Is that code for help?" the soldier asked hopefully. "No? Kinda? You'll see." I stepped to the front door and fired 3 carefully spaced shots, waited a moment, then fired 3 more. That's the backcountry signal for help, which we'd decided to use for shit's happening. Hopefully the kids were ready. There's something to be said for boredom, because no sooner did the nursery sign come into view than my old GMC came roaring out. The kids saw me hanging out the door and pulled level with us. Jolly bounced happily and waved from the passenger seat. Azealia had a look of grim concentration on her face, though she spared a moment to smile at me. The smile quickly turned to shock when she saw the condition of the bus and the extra people in it. Her eyes widened and she visibly drooped when she followed the finger I pointed behind us. Azealia punched Jolly, probably telling him to settle down, though it took a few moments longer for him to get Obelix calm. Azealia rolled down her window, and before she could say anything, I jumped in. "No names! Don't use any names! I'll explain later!" "What do you need?" the girl asked without hesitation. I felt a surge of pride. Most people would have asked a million questions and completely ignored the fact that we were in danger of death in favor of having an explanation. Not this kid. She had her priorities straight. "Pull up a bit more." I leaned farther out so she could hear me. "I'm gonna jump in the back." Like an idiot. "We need the machine gun and our rifles and spare mags." Acilia pulled forward, edging closer to the bus. There was some canvassy-looking stuff back there. I hoped it'd cushion me. "Where's Sin?" I screamed to be heard over the wind as I belatedly remembered the old dog. "Sleeping in the back," Acilia shouted, jerking a thumb over her shoulder. I stretched up and could barely make him out, hidden under a pile of canvas stuck, tucked into the corner closest to me. No worries, then. I shouldn't land on him. I licked my lips and tried to pretend I wasn't staring at the asphalt as it whizzed by barely a foot away from my feet. I crouched, preparing to jump. Sweat dripped between my breasts, under my worn underwear chafed the creases of my inner thighs, and my right arm screamed as the muscles bunched, readying myself for the leap. I told myself I was a second away from jumping, but that's almost certainly a lie. Before I could get to the point of realizing I wasn't going anywhere, the bus jerked to the side, nearly flinging me from the steps. "What the hell?" I shrieked. Sonya was sweating freely in the cold air. "The tank nearly had us in their sights. We don't have time for you to nerve yourself up. Just do it!" The last was a roar that carried over everything. The crying from the middle of the bus, the rifle reports from the rear, the straining engines, all died in the force of her shout. "I hate you!" I shouted, and jumped on the last word, tucking my knees to my chest. My feet clipped the side of the truck bed, spilling me across the stuff in the back in an undignified heap. I blessedly landed on my left side, the ribbed bottom dragging across my shoulder and hip as I skidded across, slamming my head and shoulders against the opposite wheel well. Before I had a chance to recover, something warm landed heavily on top of me. A strangled scream escaped as my right arm took the brunt of it. "Thank God we're not a hemophiliac," I thought dimly. "I think we're still bleeding." I shoved back hard and was rewarded with a pained grunt. The thing that landed on me was a person. Our soldier, in fact. "What the hell you doing here?" I struggled to my knees, using the machine gun stand as a crutch. "I told you to watch the front." The soldier looked at me, unrepentant brown eyes mere inches away. "Your trigger-happy friend can do that. There should be at least 2 people guarding our rear." She nodded to the gun as she found her feet. "One for that, one to act as a sniper." I sighed and rolled my eyes. "Make yourself useful then, and get the boy to pass us some ammo." Acilia was already dropping back, cutting to the left so we were behind the bus. Alex waved at us, then moved to the front of the bus. "What do I call you?" the soldier shouted. "It would really help if you had a name." "Tweedledee!" I yelled back, getting the machine gun unhooked and loaded. "What?" "Tweedledee," I repeated. "I can't call the person who broke us out of a North Korean brothel Tweedledee." "This name was given to me by a very nice lady," I said huffily, lining up the sights on the first vehicle in line, a Hummer. "And while she was not my mother, what does that currently matter? What should I call you?" I pulled the trigger, absorbing the recoil as I swayed with the little truck. The lead Hummer slewed sideways to avoid me, opening up an opportunity to shoot at the guy behind. "Call me Seahorse," the soldier said after much consideration, as she knelt, braced, and began picking shots. "Seahorse?" I turned my head to see if she was serious. "I like 'em," she said simply. I pursed my lips and shrugged. "Okay, then." "That's how you pick a name." Seahorse threw me a quick grin, dark eyes dancing merrily. Tweedledee and Seahorse. Sweet Seahorse and Tweedledee. There should be a punchline in there somewhere. I went back to firing at the enemy. Thank you for joining me for Chapter 14. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to stay up to date, like on any sales or anything like that, I do have a link in the description so you can subscribe there. If you're enjoying this story so far, but maybe it's not 100% your cup of tea, I do have a fantasy book based on Arthurian legends that is coming out this year. So if you want to stay up to date and keep up with what's happening with that, particularly when it's ready, when the Kickstarter launches and then when it's ready to publish, you definitely want to subscribe. Okay? Thank you, and I will see you next time.